want to go through just a quick assembly guide here on the Spyder frame. This kit that I've got will come with the two frame rails and a set of cross members. This is your servo mounts and rear link risers. Then we've got our link sets and our set of bolts. On the frame here, these two side pieces are removable in there, and they attach with two bolts, one in the back and one up on the front here. This front one up here, if you are using the lower cross member that's available, then the rear bolt is the same one that goes straight through there. If you're not, then you'll use one of these upper bolts up in here for one of the other cross members. The reason for the two different cross members, this lower one here, if you're going to run the battery on here, it kind of tucks it down and sets it down inside there. The other optional cross members we've got here are going to be this lower one down in here. That's what this one here is, and then we've got the option of this one here, which if you're going to end up doing a slightly longer wheelbase, you could put this one in and it would go more up on the top rather than being down flushed down in there, so that you can have it more look like a hood rather than somewhere a pocket to hold your battery in. Now, if you're going to be using this hood, you are going to either want to switch out with the longer links that are in here. The link sets that we've got, there's a whole handful of links, but the standards that I standardly use on the front, 40.5s, that's the deadbolt front links here. On the upper links, I have installed, this one here is threaded on the ball end, where this one here has a straight through. So the nice thing on these threaded ones is you don't have to try to put a backing nut or anything on there. Or the other thing that some people will do is they'll assemble the upper links onto here and thread them in from here so that the threads are sticking out, and that will hold them in place, but then you can't remove them unless you take the whole thing all the way apart. So I like these threaded balls because you can actually just put them in place and tighten down up against them rather than having to put a backing nut on the backside or anything like that. So these come pre-installed with a threaded end on one side and a standard end on the other. And then that was the same case on both sets of front links that you've got. You've got the 39mm upper links and then the 29.5mm upper links. Both of those have, one side has that threaded ball on there and the other side is standard. So you can run either a short link in the front or a long link in the front. And then there's the matching short and long links for those. Now in the rear, you've got your upper links, which are 77mm, and your rear links, lowers, which are an 84. What you're going to notice on these is they've got kind of a sharp twist bend and then a gradual tapered bend going down. What you're going to want to make sure is that you have them facing this direction in here, not this direction here. The taper should pretty much follow the body line coming up and then smooth going down. You don't want it this direction here where it goes up real high and then kind of zigzags back down at the end. Make sure it's facing that way. You're going to get the most amount of clearance that you can in there with these upper links up here. And so the way that I've got them set here, I've got them set on the lower positions of the four for the upper links. You can kind of play with them where you feel best from there. The boa mount on the front, which is one of the optional mounts here for this. On this boa mount, you've got these two little tabs that will go on depending on which size servo you've got facing here. Usually they'll face out that direction there and on there. This boa mount, what you will find is if you don't use these longer links, they're going to run into the front of the frame heads here, which if you wanted to leave it tucked in, you could just cut the front of the frame off right off the front of that cross member, and that should give you enough space to get around that there. The other option would be using the slightly longer links up front, and that will push you further away on the front here. And the cross member, or the original servo mount, if you're not using the boa here, depending on how deep your servo is front to back, some of them don't fit very well in that servo mount. So I've got these little tabs here to put behind the servo if you need a little bit of extra space back in there. So you've got these little shock space, or these little servo spacers for the standard mount, which has both reefs mounts on the upper, and then the middle one there is your standard NSDRC or stock servo, Emax, those type of things. Well, I'll use the center one in there. This carrier bearing I suggest installing with the long piece facing towards the back. If you install it this direction here, you're going to have some clearance issues on the middle drive shaft running into the transmission. I've got a cross member that you can put in and install in here. I've got two versions, a left version and a right version. Depending on if you're doing forward facing motor or rear facing motor, you may want a little bit of space next to put an ESC on or something like that in there. And like I said, I've got left and right versions of that will fit right in there. The two rear bolts, once I have them in place, I usually shave them down to where they're just little tiny nubs in there rather than being long threaded bolts sticking out, which that makes it so that you can use this kind of as a hood to come open, and then it will kind of pop itself back into place there and close it, so it spreads open just a little bit, and you can open it up and get in access to anything inside there if you need. So it does also come with this rear link riser, which is a double shear rear link riser. I put it up on the highest position here on that. It gives me a little bit taller spread on the links there. There's also these straight cross members here. If you decided up on the front up here, if you're running a forward-facing brushless, you may end up needing to put just a single crossbar in there for your cross member instead of this front plate. So a lot of versatility depending on what your motor setups are. They do come with a little bolt kit here because the skid plate is 3D printed here. It uses the ax24 skid plate. If you wanted to use a brass one, you can just use a brass one instead, but I do like this 3D printed one. It also has that same reflective here on it that matches these side panels as well. So there's just a kind of a quick overview, run through of the frame here. Upper links have a little bit of a bow to them, so they face this direction here to go around the upper links, which just keep in mind the upper links need to go this direction here, not this direction here. It's pretty obvious once you've got them on which direction they're supposed to be, but make sure that they are tucked way up in there.